The personal finance site NerdWallet did a study on how much tax revenue the government would receive if we legalized marijuana in all 50 states under the successful current model in Colorado. So, for those of you who don't know, it's a 15% sales tax in Colorado. Now, that's steep, and a lot of people would argue, well, when you make it that expensive, the black market is still going to exist and it's still going to thrive. Well, if Colorado has taught us anything, the black market still may exist, but most people go, fuck it, I'll go buy it legally and pay a 15% tax as opposed to buying it illegally and not paying a 15% tax. So it appears like a lot of people / most people are fine with paying whatever tax. They're just so happy it's illegal. So how much money would all 50 states make if we use that model? $3 billion. $3 billion in tax revenue generated like that. That is awesome. Now, remember, that's just tax revenue. The total picture is much broader than that. So when you add in the amount of money you'd save if you released non-violent marijuana criminals from jail and prison and stopped arresting and prosecuting these people, you add another $10 billion in savings to that. So we're looking at $13 billion in tax savings if you use the Colorado model in all 50 states in America. $13 billion. Not to mention the fact that, of course, if you did that model, you would be increasing freedom. There's something to be said about that. Plus, you're legalizing an entire new industry and massively helping the economy, and you're helping to increase jobs, and you're helping the private sector. See, that's the thing about the issue of marijuana legalization. This isn't a partisan issue. It's not just Democrats who are like, rah, rah, let's do it because we like getting intoxicated. No, it's a lot of conservatives and a lot of libertarians and a lot of business-minded people. Capitalists are getting in on this. Why? Because it's a capitalist's wet dream. You have this industry that's been suppressed, and there's a natural demand for this industry. There's always been a demand for this industry. And like I said, if you're a budget hawk, a deficit hawk, if you care about the free market, if you care about increasing jobs, I mean, these are all things that would be helped overwhelmingly if you legalize marijuana. And remember, there's also just an argument from common sense. And what I mean by that is the war on drugs hasn't worked anyway. Prohibition has not worked anyway. The same way that with alcohol, when you banned it, you had the mafia get incredibly powerful because they had a monopoly on the alcohol business. So they got all the money when anybody bought alcohol illegally, which everybody was doing. So the mafia was so strong because of alcohol prohibition. Well, the same thing's happening now with the Mexican drug cartels with marijuana prohibition and drug prohibition. They're getting all the money, and they're arguably, actually, I think it just might be a fact by this point, they're more powerful than the central government in Mexico because they're so rich as a result of our shitty policies. Not to mention the fact that people leave Central America to come here, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, because of the violence brought about by the drug war, because we've so destroyed those areas that they come to the U.S. to try to get a better life, and then we turn them around and kick them out anyway. So this is one of those issues where the more you look into it and the more you read about it, you find out that there's an argument from any angle possible, any angle imaginable that you can come up with where you might question the idea of marijuana legalization or drug legalization. There's always a good argument for it, okay? In fact, I've yet to stumble across an even semi-convincing argument against it, because even if your goal is to limit the number of people doing drugs, which the people for the drug war, that's what they claim, right? We just want to stop little Timmy from lighting up a joint or doing a bump of coke. What ended up happening after the drug war? We spent $1 trillion, and now little Timmy is more likely to do drugs. It had the opposite effect of what you wanted. So by every objective measure, it's been a failure. And now we're starting to see the empirical data and the evidence that by every objective standard, if we do the Colorado model throughout the U.S., it would be an overwhelming success, even from an economic and financial perspective.